The debate over gay rights and religious freedom is turning America into a battleground. 34 states are considering bills to protect clergy and business owners who object to gay marriage on religious grounds. And as George Thomas reports, that fight is getting ugly.
Business owners Dick and Betty Odgaard's story should serve as a warning of what happens when so-called religious freedom laws are not in place to protect people of faith. On August 3, 2013, a gay couple asked the Odgaards if they could rent their gallery in Iowa for a same-sex wedding.
They came in and Dick was there. He was the one that had to deliver the bad news to them.
The Odgaards refused, citing their Christian belief that marriage should be between one man and one woman.
I don't want to celebrate my sins. I don't want other people to celebrate my sins, nor do I want to participate in celebrating anybody else's sins.
The gay couple sued them for discrimination, and after a 2-year court battle, rather than celebrate gay marriages, the Christian couple paid the same-sex couple a fine and agreed to stop hosting weddings at the gallery.
It has been difficult, I won't lie. It's been the hardest thing we've ever been through, and I don't wish it on anyone.
Their decision cost them dearly. After months of negative publicity, hate mail, death threats, and loss of income, the Goetz House Gallery went out of business last year.
The ugly continues to come at us, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And we would do it all over again the same way because we're in the middle of God's will.
Since last summer's Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage, more than 100 religious freedom bills have been proposed in 34 states to protect Christians and others from the threat of legal action because they object to gay marriage on religious grounds. Take, for example, the new law just passed in Mississippi.
The Mississippi law says if you believe marriage is the union of a man and a woman, that sex is reserved for marriage, and that we're created male and female. It doesn't say you have to believe those things, but it says if you do believe those things, we're not going to penalize you if you act on those beliefs.
In Louisiana and Ohio, lawmakers are proposing measures that protect pastors who refuse to perform same-sex marriages. Ryan Anderson is with the Washington, D.C. based Heritage Foundation. He says the accusation that these religious freedom laws discriminate against gays and lesbians just isn't true.
The basic argument here is that we're trying to protect pluralism. We're trying to protect diversity. We're promoting tolerance.
But some of the laws have been met with fierce opposition from businesses, activists, and celebrities. North Carolina's governor was forced to roll back portions of a controversial bathroom law affecting transgenders after several companies criticized it and others threatened to stop their businesses in the state.
I think this just shows you what's taking place. It's a form of cronyism. It's cultural cronyism. Big business is using their market freedom to deny little businesses and religious people their religious freedom.
What is clear, though, is that the backlash from last year's Supreme Court decision has brought religious freedom concerns to the forefront this spring, with many Americans believing that the battle over gay rights versus protecting people's religious convictions is just beginning. George Thomas, CBN News.
Protecting people's religious convictions, isn't that what our country was founded on? The opportunity for people to come and practice freely? I'm not sure you can legislate morality. You know, I don't have to agree with you to respect you. But to take away someone's business, to insist that they get some kind of sensitivity training because they don't agree with your position on something just seems outside the box of who we are as a country. But as you heard in that piece, it's not just about the gay rights issue. It's infiltrating everywhere, even the political scenario today that we're all complaining about having to listen to day after day after day is built on that same premise that if you don't agree with what I think or what I say, then something has to be done to take care of you and remove you from whatever box you're standing on, declaring your role. We need to respect each other. We need to go back to a place of civility where we can have discussions about things of difference without finger-pointing, name-calling, or taking away the rights of one group so that I can have rights for myself. If you're one of the millions of Americans figuring out their tax bill this week, oh my, I am. Wait until you see our next story. John Jessup has the details from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Terry. Get this. The 2016 Congressional Pig Book is out. and you, the taxpayer, spending more than $5 billion in earmarks. The group Citizens Against Government Waste released its annual compilation of pork barrel projects, which includes 123 earmarks. That's an increase of more than 20% of the wasteful spending in 2015. Making the Pork Hall of Shame this year is $8 billion for something called aquatic plant control. There's also $40 million to upgrade the M1 Abrams tank, even though the Pentagon doesn't want it. Congress actually imposed a moratorium against earmarks in 2011, but they're making a comeback.
We must cut this out-of-control spending and ensure that spending constraints are in place if we are ever going to get our debt under control.
No one who reads this year's pig book can say that there's nowhere left to cut federal spending.
Citizens Against Government Waste named Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid as Porker of the Month. Government repression and violence by extremists are the main factors driving human rights abuses around the world. That's according to the latest report from the Obama administration. The report highlighted countries like North Korea, China, Cuba, and Iran as the biggest offenders. Secretary of State John Kerry says most countries have made progress to uphold the universal standard.
We have seen important democratic gains in such countries as Tunisia, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and Burma, though in each there are challenges that still need to be overcome, but we are working closely with each of those countries in efforts to help meet those challenges.
Kerry also cited countries like Vietnam and Egypt for having made improvements. Well, anti-Semitism is on the rise in Europe. It's being fueled by the massive influx of refugees from Muslim countries. The situation is causing Jewish communities to consider their options. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has that story.
For the Jewish community, the refugee crisis is a huge problem.
According to Israeli author Manfred Gerstenfeld, that's because most are Muslims, a group behind some of the most extreme hate crimes in Europe.
Many of them are anti-Semites from the most anti-Semitic countries in the world.
Gerstenfeld blames what he calls massive non-selective immigration from Muslim countries. And with the new influx of refugees from the Middle East, it's getting worse.
You bring them in, you don't register them properly, you don't know whether terrorists come them who sees Jews as a target. So for the Jews it is a very major problem.
Following last year's terror attacks in Copenhagen, one outside a synagogue, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made headlines by urging European Jews to come home to Israel. Thousands accepted the offer, and immigration from Europe to Israel spiked over the last 2 years. But Gerstenfeld tells CBN News it's not practical for everyone.
The elites consider leaving, they send their children, but the people who know only French, what can they do? They have to sit out their life till their pensions. Then they may come to Israel, unless they start burning synagogues.
Now the attack in Brussels is causing Belgian Jews to consider their options.
I'm seriously asking the question if I can stay here and if there's a future for my children here.
Nevertheless, Belgian Jew Patricia Teitelbaum said the decision isn't easy.
We're always speaking about it. Should we leave? Should we stay? Above all, we are also Belgians, so we are used to compromise. We are still hesitating, probably more than the French Jews, because they are leaving in much higher percentage. But definitely we ask ourselves the question, yeah.
Even in the midst of those questions, Teitelbaum is clear on one subject. She sees this as a warning for the West, because when attacks happen against Jews, it's only the beginning of trouble for everyone else. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Russian fighter jets in the Baltic Sea played a wicked game this week, flying dangerously close to a U.S. warship.
On the deck, below the bridge wing.
The incident violated international law for militaries operating in close proximity to each other, and this is not the first time Russian jets have acted recklessly. There have been multiple incidences over the past year when Russian fighter jets have flown too close to other air and sea traffic. Terry, that's some pretty provocative and alarming video there.
Unbelievable. Thank heavens for American restraint. I'm not going to lie, I was surprised by it with something like that happening.